I couldn't even have dreamt to be in the chair that I'm in right now. The transition's been eased, obviously, by the amount of people that we brought with us, both players, coaches, staff. Yeah, I think you just need to get somewhere where you can play. I mean, like, regardless of the level that you're at, regardless of all those things, like, I think, like, we want to play football.
Today's guest on the Left Hash Call represents the next wave of offensive minds in college football, from playing quarterback at Incarnate Word to rising quickly through the coaching ranks. He's been a key part of one of the most explosive passing systems in the country. He's helped develop elite quarterbacks like Cameron Ward, and most recently led a top 2 passing offense nationally at North Texas. And now he is at the P4 level. He brings that offensive system and vision to the Big 12, the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Oklahoma State, Coach Sean Brophy. How's it going today, man?
That's quite the introduction. You know, that's some next level stuff right there. So no, like I was saying before we hopped on here, man, this is a blast. It's good to connect with you guys and been following your guys' stuff for such a long time, obviously. And so you know, seeing Mac on here earlier, Coach Stein and different people, right? Like that's a pretty cool group to get to be a part of. So I'm excited to be on here with you guys.
Some good dudes, man. Some good dudes.
Well, you deserve it. And of course, joining me as of recent and pumped to continue to have this dude on, Coach Dan Casey. What's going on today, man?
Hey, let's get into it, man. Let's talk some ball.
Absolutely. Let's just get right into it. But Coach, obviously a pretty magical season a year ago at North Texas, putting up some pretty insane numbers. But since getting this job and following Coach Morris up to Oklahoma State, just what's the transition been like? What's this journey been like? Obviously going through spring ball, but how can you encompass this entire thing in a couple of sentences here?
Yeah, I mean, the transition's been great so far. I think that the transition's been eased, obviously, by the amount of people that we brought with us, both players, coaches, staff. You know, the strength staff, starting with Coach Kagan's, our entire offensive and defensive staff came with us from North Texas, except for Coach Davis, who's now the play caller at ECU and going to crush it there and expect them to do awesome things this year. And so, you know, and then the amount of players we brought with us, right? And I think that the biggest adjustment has been just the amount of things on Coach Morris's plate, right? I mean, when you get to this level, obviously you take over a program that's got a really rich tradition, a proud tradition, that's won a ton of games and competed for championships. And so, you know, he's got a lot on his plate right now as the head coach, right? Off, you know, shaking hands, donor dinners, you know, in DFW, OKC, flying around, doing these things that you need to do at this level, right? I think the recruiting ramps up a little bit at this level, right? And so just, you know, the amount of guys we've had on campus and getting our quarterback commit early in the process and things that have been going on. So it's been fast and furious, but it's a great place. We've got a great setup here. I mean, like you said, you can see the stadium. I mean, we're so lucky with all the resources and facilities that we have here. And so, you know, it's as good as we could possibly ask for right now.
You know, your relationship with Coach Morris, you know, you touched on it there a little bit, but you guys have been intertwined this entire time, man. Like you guys have been at one stop to the next. How can you describe that relationship and how have you guys grown together over the years?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, you know, just thinking back on really how it began, right? He comes in and takes over a program that was 1-10 at Incarnate Word, right? And I was the quarterback for that team, right? I think I started 9 of 11 games that year that, you know, we just flat out weren't very good, right? And I was, you know, didn't play very good football myself. And so my first, you know, memory of Coach Morris is this guy walking in young, dressed super well, fancy dress boots in this team meeting, and he just starts rolling and just starts ripping it. And our best player, when our receivers walks in late, he just kicks him out and just sets the tone from the jump. And so, you know, I knew he meant business. And then, you know, it's been kind of well documented, right, that, you know, he benched me going into my last year there, really. And so my first conversation with him, you know, not first conversation, but kind of heavy conversation with him was him, you know, kind of benching me about 2 weeks into fall camp, right? And we sit down and, you know, I could kind of read the room of what was about to go down. And so he kind of, you know, rips the Band-Aid off and then, you know, he's like, well, how's everything else going? I'm like, well, my girlfriend, long distance girlfriend of 3 or 4 years. And I actually just broke up yesterday. And so you just see everything go crazy in his brain. And he just starts scrambling and tell me about how, he had a similar situation in college and then he met Maggie, his now wife, and all this stuff, right? And it's just, I think that's just like so like, I mean, that's so indicative of what coaching is, right? And like we think about the X's and O's and all the films you watch and the things that you do, but like it's the time with your players, right? And you think back to there's so much more that goes into it, right? Whether it's an example like that, someone passing like our quarterback Drew's, grandfather just passed away 2 days ago, right? And there's so many different things that go into coaching that sometimes I think that, we think about, the play calling, the play design, the recruiting, our time on the grass. But, Coach Boris has been an integral part. I mean, he's given me every professional opportunity that I've taken, right? And so, I owe everything that I have right now to him, right? And to be sitting here in this office, and I'd like to think that he keeps me around because we do a good job. But, at the same time too, there's a lot of guys that would kill to be in this spot. And so I'm forever grateful and appreciative, obviously, for my relationship with him.
It's pretty cool that you played quarterback for him, got benched, and still liked him enough to want to continue working with him and continue that relationship. That must say something about the kind of man he is, and just the relationship that you guys had formed, that you were able to kind of weather that adversity and stick together and still feel like you could be have a great working relationship.
Yeah, I think that I just loved ball. I was someone that didn't get to play as long as I did. And I didn't have some illustrious career, right? But I mean, I played, a lot of high school football. I played 5 years in college, and I was somebody that did that because I just loved and dove into ball, right? And so even that season, right, like we have a kid named John Copeland who's a freshman who comes in and takes over. He's mobile and a little bit more dynamic and a great kid and somebody that I still talk to. And when I see, we still hit it off, right? But I was somebody that would come in on Mondays, on off days, right, and watch film on my own and write down play suggestions and get some prep work in and do things for my body to make sure that I was always ready to go. And I think that and not just doing it once or twice, but like consistently doing it over and over and over again. And it was nothing to ever prove to anybody or to show anybody that I could do it. I didn't even know that I wanted to get into coaching, right? But I think that he actually kind of approached me about it initially one day on a Sunday night practice. And he's like, man, you drop off good play ideas. Have you ever thought about coaching? And I was really like, no, honestly, right? I just loved ball. And so, and then when it came time, when I got done playing, I just finished my MBA, and I was like, if I find a school stupid enough to pay for all my stuff, like I'm just going to take advantage of them. Right. And so I graduated in 3 years, knocked out my graduate degree, and went back and actually worked in Phoenix, where I'm from. And so I was working a corporate job, at a great job. It was right when COVID hit, and for all intents and purposes, like on a great career path. I was making great money for where I was at. But I started coaching high school football, and in Arizona, it's different. And so I was working for Jason Jewell, who was a mentor of mine, somebody I'd played for, and he was the head coach at Brophy Prep. Is still the head coach there. And so, I was coaching the JV quarterbacks and pseudo calling the plays for JV with this guy named Andy Hale, and the eyes in the sky on game days on Friday nights with those guys. And, but then at the same time, like we practiced at 5 a.m. because they had to be off the grass and in school at 7:45 at Brophy. And so, I would run home and shower and either hop on Zoom calls for my job or put a suit and tie on and go to work. And it got to the end of November and the season wrapped up, and we weren't very good that year. Our starting quarterback was Kurt Warner's son, Cade Warner, and he broke his ankle week 1, and we were terrible. We didn't win a game, actually. And so, but I was like, this is ridiculous. The best part of my day is coaching football. And I was like, I need not continue down this path with what I'm doing. Like, I've got to go see if I can make a run at this thing. And it was never about, I couldn't even have dreamt to be in the chair that I'm in right now doing what I'm doing. It was just because I loved coaching football. And so, I quit my job, and I flew to San Antonio and worked for free. So
I love it. I love it. Dude, it's crazy because I feel like you hear these stories from guys like, do you love football because you love football, or do you love football because you love what it gives you? The experiences, the salaries that come at the Power 4 level, obviously. But, I had a situation when I was in college where I was a team captain. We went 0-11. It was the most miserable year of my life. And I came out of that season still loving football. So I was like, man, there's something to this. Is between your struggling at quarterback, getting benched, coaching JV football at 5 a.m., having a tough season, but still loving ball. Is there something that you were just like, man, I have to go chase this down?
Yeah, I think part of it was I was so blessed to be mentored by awesome people growing up. And so, I think that we say that, right? But I think back, I'm so lucky. So I grew up in Arizona. I went to Chaparral High School in Scottsdale, and quite honestly, maybe the most impressive run of coaches and front office people to ever come out of a school. And so I go to Chaparral High School my freshman year. We finished a three-peat state championship run, and Charlie Ragel's the head coach, and he leaves for Arizona with Rich Rod, and they promote Dave Hoffine, who had been a really successful OC there, and Kenny Dillingham had been my freshman football offensive coordinator the year before. 8-1, go Firebirds. And so he takes over as my quarterbacks coach my sophomore year, and then my junior year takes over as the play caller and as my coordinator then. And then he ends up leaving to go to Arizona State as a low-level assistant, just getting his foot in the door. And then the head coach leaves. We promote Conrad Hamilton, who's the DC. He's now a head coach at Desert Mountain out there, but an NFL guy. He'd played DB in the NFL for 6 or 7 years. And they hire a guy named Rudy Carpenter, who was an all-time great quarterback at Arizona State. And had done a tour in the NFL 5 or 6 years with the Cowboys and the Bucks, and even, did a small stint in Canada. And so I was just surrounded by amazing people my whole time coming up. Like, it's a shame I didn't turn out better than I did as a player, realistically, right? Like Jason Mullins, the tight ends coach at Arizona State, longtime head coach at Saguaro, was my 7th grade football coach, like youth football, right? And then you get to college, and then you get around Coach Morris, obviously, but then I built a really strong relationship with Mac Leftwich. I mean, he coached me for 2 years, and Max meant everything to my career. Like, he's done so much for me and been amazing. I mean, and then I get to work with Cutter, his brother, who's our O-line coach, and it's just incredible how all this stuff's intertwined. I mean, they'll both be at my wedding here in a couple of weeks, and so I'm in the position I'm in and wanted to get into it just because of how awesome the people I had around me. And so, people sometimes, I think they say that and it's kind of lip service, but genuinely the people that I was coached by and surrounded by is what made this journey so special for me.
Your career and your journey so far, as you're already describing, has been pretty remarkable, because you go to Incarnate Word in 2021 as a quality control, working for free, essentially. Then you follow Coach Morris to Washington State, right, as a graduate assistant. And then, right, you guys get the job down there at North Texas, have an outstanding couple of years, 3 years there, I should say. And then now you're the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. I mean, in a matter of 5 years, you're a Power 4 offensive coordinator. And do you have to pinch yourself every once in a while, or have you really just kind of taken it day by day?
Yeah, I've really just taken it in stride. I mean, obviously, it's one of those things, like, you hear people say those things, but like to me, it's just coaching ball. And I know that sounds super cliche and super generic and all those things, right? But like, the best part of my job is spending time with the quarterbacks and coaching quarterbacks, right? And I think that, like, that's truly what I focus on. Obviously I pinch myself. I mean, 5 years ago, I'm sitting in a little flex space. I'm buttoned up against the equipment room. There's a cage that separated this little flex space from the equipment room, and I sat right next to the coffee pot. And so there's nothing but young guys on that staff. It's Coach Morris, it's Jordan Davis, it's Clint Killow, and all those guys do is drink coffee all day. And I was the coffee guy, right? Amongst a lot of other things, obviously. Mac was starting to get a little bougie. He had just met Courtney. He had this fancy drip coffee system in his office, right? But his office didn't have windows. Like, he was in this little closet, right? And so, I mean, I think that that's kind of what makes it maybe more special, and you don't take it for granted, right? Like, my office is larger than studio apartments in New York City. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches here, right? Like, to think of where, we were. But I think that the reason we've all been successful is because we kept the main thing, and we didn't get distracted by all the things that come with these jobs. It was never about chasing a logo. It was never about, self-promoting or doing these things, right? It was just about coaching football and just keeping your head down and working and helping these kids become the best that they could be. And the rest really just took care of itself, quite honestly.
God, I love that. I want to talk about the quarterback, because his story nonetheless is remarkable in and of itself. He was a walk-on with barely any tape, right? Discovered him through a private trainer connection, I believe is what it was. Yep. And he came to North Texas in the summer of 2024 with no scholarship, hadn't taken a varsity snap, and won the Burlsworth Trophy a year ago. What can you say about him, and what are some of the traits that maybe people wouldn't see on the surface level about him that has made him such an outstanding player for you guys?
He's a really confident kid, I think, first and foremost. And I think he came in initially with nothing to lose and just ripped it, right? And I think that, there was an acclimation period, right? And you could ask him and he would tell you there's a couple of times that I chewed him a little bit and got on him. But I mean, honestly, I've never been around somebody that has developed and grown so fast. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's incrementally getting better each and every day. There was never that plateau that you sometimes see with guys when they get on campus and all of a sudden they get, good coaching and good nutrition and strength and all those things. And then sometimes they plateau. Like his growth was just a steady incline. And so just getting around him, and then to the way he processes information, you don't ever have to tell Drew something twice. You show him something, you talk to him about something, he makes a mistake, he learns from it. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so, we've got this deal called AIQ, which scores, it's a cognitive ability test, right? And it tests all these different factors and learning, processing, and retention and reaction skills, and all these different things. And he scored off the charts on all these different things. I mean, better than the vast majority of starting quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Which I know, that's setting a high standard, but he's got such a special mind. And then too, like, he just loves football. Like, he is one of the guys. He loves ball. I mean, we're talking about a guy, like, let's be honest and open about this stuff. Like, these guys make a lot of money now. Like, he's making 7 figures. And he lives in a house with 4 other dudes, right? And like, they all just pay rent, and they're just normal guys that love ball. And the other guys in that house too are also dudes that are making a bunch of money, right? It's Wyatt Young, it's Miles Coleman, it's Quentin Hammonds, these different guys, right? And so that's what's been so refreshing to me, is like, this kid just loves ball. He loves the process. He loves playing and competing and learning. And then obviously too, like, I mean, he's got a physical skill set and a natural ability that a lot of guys just don't have. Right. And I think that the recruiting process happens so early now for a lot of big schools. Like, these guys fall through the crack. And the reality is too, is like, there's some luck involved with this, right? Like, if we would have had any idea Drew Messtermacher was going to be Drew Messtermacher, like, we wouldn't have had him show up as the 5th, like, same thing with Cam Ward. Like, they wouldn't have offered 5 other quarterbacks in that class before Cam Ward. Right. I mean, we had Sam Levitt committed at Washington State. We had 4 other quarterbacks on the board above him. Right. And so sometimes these things happen for a reason. And that's where I think too, development's so important, right? And I don't want to go down a tangent too, but like, everybody talks about player acquisition and scouting and talent acquisition, but people like that gets lost a little bit. And I think sometimes development's a lazy term or used, or kind of a buzzword, right? But like, it still matters a ton, right? Because you just never know what these guys can turn into become. And there's these stories all these times. There's all these exceptions to the rules. And I think Drew might just be at the forefront of that right now in college football.
I've talked a lot about over the years about the relationship between the quarterback and the play caller being one of the most important and integral relationships in all of sports. And what's been interesting to me in watching you and Coach Morris on this track, obviously Washington State, special player in Cam Ward. You guys bring in Chandler Morris at North Texas. He has a special run there before he goes to UVA. And then you bring Drew in, and it's like, you don't even skip a beat. But what's interesting to me is, Cam Ward is such a twitchy quarterback, and Chandler Morris has some of those mobility things, and Drew's a little different. He's a longer, athletic, bigger lever guy. But you guys have kind of tailored the system to fit each of these guys' skill sets. How do you attack that piece as a coaching staff of like, hey, how do we put their best skills on display? Because when I turn on the tape, I'm like, they're putting Cam Ward in the best position to be successful. They're putting Chandler Morris in the best position to be successful. And then I turn on the tape this year with Drew, which is why I think you were named quarterback coach of the year. You guys did such a good job of tailoring that system to perfectly fit his skill set.
I mean, I think you have to, though. And I think that we know that. And I think we say it sometimes as coaches, right? But like, you have to put these guys in positions to do what they're best at, right? And so we've got to be able to tailor our system each and every year to fit these guys and what they do really well. And if you go and you look, maybe our identity, our core values were similar all those years, right, on offense. But what we were doing schematically in 23 with Chandler Rogers was totally different, more mobile, a great deep ball thrower, maybe not as nuanced in the intermediate drop back progression stuff.
Right.
He's certainly advanced and developed, right? But so we ran a bunch more vertical choice stuff that year, something that we hadn't done a ton of. Is 22 the year before, Tennessee made it popular. And then you get Chandler Morris, right? Who is that twitchy, quick hands, RPO, spit it out thrower, get him out of the pocket, right? And so, but he's a very confident and instinctual player too. And so you want to put him in positions to play super fast and process at high speeds and use his athletic skill set. And then you transfer into Drew. And so like, you just have to be willing as a coach, one, to, I think, put your ego aside, and it's not about my system. It's not about my plays. This is what I do. Right. And I do think that that's where we've taken a big step forward, just kind of as a program, because you've got the air raid roots that Coach Morris comes from, right? Which, right, wrong, or indifferent is that's a very specific system, right? That's a very specific. These are my plays. They don't change a ton, right? Kind of way of thinking, right? But he's young and he spent so many years with Coach Leach and Coach Kingsbury. Right? So when he got out on his own, he had all these fresh ideas that he wanted to utilize and try. And then my background coming from guys like Kenny Dillingham and Rudy Carpenter, and even Mac's background with what he had been exposed to is a little bit more West Coast and pro style. And so there's a much bigger emphasis on footwork and your eyes with progressions and teaching defenses and utilizing read keys through your progressions, right? It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, throw it to the open guy and let's talk about something totally different, right? And so the teaching progression, the way we go about our time with our guys, but then truly just morphing our system to fit their skill set. Like I think you just do an incredible disservice if you're just going to say, this is my system, this is what I do, and not morph it into what your quarterback's best at. Because at the end of the day, if your quarterback's not comfortable, if your quarterback's not playing at a high level, like you don't have a great chance.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your time in Arizona, obviously in high school and also Glendale Community College. What is it about Arizona high school football that is just different? I recruited down there when I was at River Falls. I got one of my college roommate is one of the quarterback coach at Chandler High School, and every time I go down there, I consistently am like, this collection of talent in this state alone is unbelievable. Where do you think that comes from? Why is that? And ultimately, I want to talk about your time at Glendale Community College as well.
Yeah, I think that number one, I think that it's so different, right? Like, I mean, it's so different to be in Texas and see all these high schools that have these huge staffs and support systems and facilities. And in Arizona, like we just don't have that. And so it's very kind of the haves and have nots in Arizona. The top level of football is really, really good, right? Like, I mean, I played our little rivals when I was growing up there was Saguaro with Luke Rebenzer, who went to Cal, and Christian Kirk, who and I were the same class, who goes to A&M, Kyle Allen's at Desert Mountain. Right. And we actually all played youth football together. Brian Lewerke up at Pinnacle. Right. So the top level of football out there is really, really good. Right. And then the bottom kind of falls out. But I think too is the weather, the sunshine, like quarterback specifically. Right. Like you can throw year round. There's all those guys out there. But, I think too, like it's a growing metropolitan area. I think just naturally too, like there's a lot of people out there and it matters to them too. There's good coaching. There's a lot of NFL guys that play or coach that retire out there because of the golf and the weather. And it's such a beautiful, wonderful place to live. Rod Dowhauer was a longtime NFL coordinator, head coach, multiple stops. It's a huge mentor to me. I mean, Rod sends me texts almost every day. It's like, I don't even have time to respond to Rod, but it's like these people that you get exposed to out there with the knowledge. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so Arizona is a really cool place. I'm obviously biased, right? And I'm with a bunch of Texas guys. And so I have to, I and Texas high school football truly, and the THSCA and everything that they do, it truly is remarkable, right? Like I don't want to sugarcoat that. But there's some good ball out there in Arizona as well. And then junior college, for me, when I was coming out of high school, like I had a couple PWOs. I had gotten hurt, right? And that's probably sounds like an excuse. I mean, my junior year, I had gotten hurt. I come back, we go to a state championship. And then my senior year, I break my collarbone. And so I was going to be an FCS quarterback. I had FCS offers at the time. They got pulled. And so instead of going and doing the PWO route and walking on and just kind of doing what everybody else maybe thought I wanted to do or just go to school, like I just wanted to prove to myself that I could be a scholarship quarterback. And so 3 semesters of really doing something that I didn't want to do, driving every day out there to the junior college where all my buddies were at Arizona or Arizona State and fraternities and doing stuff and having fun. And I was like, it was a way worse setup than even we had at Chaparral. But the relationships that I made there with guys like Jason Jewell and my teammates and the different people, honestly really made me mature very quickly because I came from a very privileged high school, right? I never considered myself maybe a brat like that growing up, but like to get in this locker room where you're around these kids, I'm 18 at the time. Like our best player was a defensive end who had been in the Air Force. He's 29 years old. It's like, we're at different parts of life. Right. And so it forces you to grow up in a hurry. Right. And I think sometimes just doing stuff that you don't want to do, but is best for you, can be really good.
If you were to give advice to yourself in the current landscape of college football, what would you tell a kid that's like, man, the recruiting hasn't panned out the way I wanted it to? What's kind of the best move for me I love ball. I want to continue my career. I want to play quarterback. Would you encourage them to look into options like junior college or Division III or FCS? Like, what advice would you give to yourself if you were in that position, but in kind of modern college football with the portal and everything?
Yeah, I think you just need to get somewhere where you can play. I mean, like, regardless of the level that you're at, regardless of all those things, like, I think, like, we want to play football. And so for these guys, I think there's a lot of strategy now that goes into it, and placing and these camps and these different things. Like, go somewhere where you can play and be around people that you want to be around and you feel like can help you develop and grow as a person, as a player, right? Not everybody's going to end up getting to be right, a starting quarterback at a Power 4 level, right? But if you can go somewhere and you can play and you can grow and develop and you can learn, and it's so cliche, but football teaches you so much about life, right? And so go someplace where you can have an incredible career and you can be happy, and someplace you want to be and you can see yourself being for an extended period of time. I don't like when guys say, "Oh, I'm going to go here for a year and see how it works," and go someplace with the intention of being there for a while. And then if you have the opportunity to leave or it's not working, that's one thing. But just go someplace where you can play, man. Like, get on the football field and compete with your brothers and go ball.
Yeah, it's been cool because obviously Seth does a lot of work with Division III football, and now he's at Drake in Iowa and FCS school, and it's been cool to see some of these guys at lower levels get have success, get opportunities, going from even Division III to Power 4. You're seeing it happen, and being able to demonstrate your talent, I think is the most important thing. And sometimes I know when I was growing up, it was all about the logo. It was what you took your best offer, and I think now guys are saying, to your point, I want to go play football. I want to prove myself on the field. I want to get live game reps, and then the rest will take care of itself. You just got to go play. I think that's great advice. But it is hard to communicate that sometimes with, parents that maybe grew up more like when we were coming through, and it was all
Right.
about just take your best offer and roll. And that's just not the world we're living in right now.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's spot on, truly.
Curious from where you guys sit now at Oklahoma State, when it comes to recruiting high school players, if that is still a priority, because I feel like for example, a coach leaves and then everybody transfers out, and then they basically just transfer in all of their guys from the previous school, or they're just patching that thing together. How do you guys approach the recruiting process? Obviously, when it's a new staff and a new team, a team that had struggled a little bit previously, collectively, when you're thinking about high school recruits in year one, how do you guys approach that?
Yeah, I don't think we ever want to be in a situation where we sign 60 or 70 transfers, however many it was, right? Like, I don't think that that's sustainable. I don't think it's the way you want to build your program, right? But it was necessary. And I think Coach Morris has made that pretty evident. And so, we really committed to recruiting high school kids at North Texas, and probably recruited, quite honestly, a couple too many on the front end. I mean, in our first full class there, we signed like 33 or 4 high school kids, and it kind of bit us in the butt, respectfully, in 2024, because we start off 5-1 and Chandler Morris is rolling, and then the natural attrition takes place, and all of a sudden every single one of your number twos at that point, for the most part, is our freshmen, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a ton of growing pains that come with that, right? But we reaped the rewards of all the experience they gained in 2025, right? And so now all those kids, I mean, Wyatt Young, sophomore, Miles Coleman, sophomore, right? Quentin Hammonds, young guy, Nelson, our left tackle, young guy, right? All these guys. And so for us, the hard part was we weren't really able to retain. We lost a lot of those young guys that played. But I think the blueprint going forward is going to be continue to recruit high school kids, right? And you hear a lot of people say it. Like, I think that the method of you really just want to utilize the portal to, add the pieces that leave, the older guys that leave, maybe someplace you have a deficiency. But, the foundation needs to be laid through high school recruiting and bringing these kids in and developing them from the start. And so we're going to consistently sign 20, 25 kids from the high school ranks each and every year, as long as Coach Morris is here. Like, that is something he wants to do. It's something he believes in. And so, like, we've been pounding the pavement doing so. And so we'll sign hopefully 20 to 25 kids this year and get them in here and start the development process with them. But I think the portal too is an important tool to be able to utilize as well, right? Because it allows you to bring in some guys that are older and have more experience. And I think that we're more of a production over potential kind of crew when it comes to attacking the portal. And so we're going to try to go out there and find those kids that were productive, whether it's D2, D3, FCS, whatever it is, lower level G5, over the potential of a kid who's maybe coming from a place with a big logo on his chest. Because the reality is, unless you're a quarterback or a kicker, is that if you can't play at a lot of those big schools, you can't play for us or here in North Texas or wherever, right? Those couple positions are different, right? But if you can't even make it on the field at special teams, right? Like what's to say you could play for us? And now there's always circumstances and one-offs, but we're going to attack production over potential, and then continue to build through the high school ranks.
With your experience at Incarnate Word, and then obviously being at North Texas and really attacking the DFW, what did you feel like you learned most about recruiting the state of Texas? Maybe not being like someone who grew up in the state, but obviously you guys have had success in the state of Texas, and you have quite a recruiting pitch now with the quarterbacks you've produced.
Yeah, I mean, I think Texas is a special place, right? I think that just truly just the investment from top to bottom everywhere you go. And we had a lot of success, not just in DFW. We had a lot of success going into East Texas and kind of going off the beaten path. And so we're not a lazy recruiting staff. Like, we're not just going to go and circle 45 minutes on the airport and hit those schools. And that's not to call anybody out specifically, right? Like, we're going to go and turn over every leak that we can. Like, I think part of when I got my first full-time job at North Texas, Coach Morris blessed me with getting to recruit West Texas. Okay. He's a West Texas guy. And I think that was kind of like my badge of whatever to bear, right? To go out there to West Texas, right? And so
you got to drive a lot of windshield time.
And it's like, we've got these guys with Houston connections and DFW, and he's looking at the map and he's like, I think we should send Brophy to West Texas. And I was like, oh, God. So, but there's great ball out there, right? And so you start out there and you fly to Amarillo and you go to Bushland and all the Amarillo schools and Plainview and down through Lubbock and Odessa and Midland. And they've even gone to Crane because that's where Clay McGuire's from, and then out to Seminole and all the way through San Angelo. You get the path, but like, we're not going to not do our due diligence on every part of that state. And then the same thing goes in Oklahoma as well. Like, there's a lot of really good football in Oklahoma. And there's a bunch of guys on our staff with Oklahoma connections. Coach Cobbs, our running backs coach, is from Oklahoma. Robbie Gordon, our assistant linebackers coach. Julian Wilson, who played at OU, is from Oklahoma. G. Rich, who played at OSU, is from OKC. And so we're gonna go to all these schools and knock on all these doors and evaluate all these kids. And just truly find the kids that love ball. Like, we've got to find the kids that want to be here and that love football and want to compete. And they've got, a high competitive, character and competitive, drive to want to be the best, because, the guys that aren't like that, they're just not going to fit here. That's just not who we are. That's not what our program's about. And so, that's kind of where we're at with it.
When you get the job at Oklahoma State, I'm curious what unit meeting number 1 looks like with Sean Brophy as the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, it was just setting standards and expectations, right? And I think it sounds cliche and coach speak, right? But like, we're a process-driven organization from top to bottom, not focused about results. And so it's setting the standards for how we're going to operate, setting expectations. We don't set a ton of goals around here because I think those are kind of self-imposed limitations. And so it's really about who we are, how we're going to operate, how we're going to be, right, in the meeting room, and truly kind of, detailing out what our teaching progression is and what our expectations are. And so there's nothing that I think is more important than the time that I have with our players throughout the course of the day, right? Whether it's a unit meeting, position meetings, all those things. Like, I can spend an extra 30, 40 minutes of game planning or calling recruits whenever I want, but I get a finite time with those guys. And so and everybody in cross college football is doing the same thing right now. Like, you guys all know this. They're all running very similar plays. They're lifting. So it's not what you do, it's how you do it, right? And so the intentionality in which you do things, right? Your teaching progression, the vertical alignment that you have on your staff, and then just getting the kids to play hard, right? And so, creating an environment where they know that they're loved. Like, I truly believe they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And, that's why so many of our guys came from North Texas. And I think that everybody acts like, oh, like, we brought all these guys from North Texas. Like, no, they chose to come here. Like, Drew Messtermacher could have gone just about anywhere he wanted to go. Same with Caleb Hawkins and Wyatt Young and Braden Nelson and these different players, right? And so, creating that expectation, setting the standard for who we're going to be, how we're going to play, all those things. And then just knowing, that we're here from them, right? And starting to build those relationships with them from day one. That way, that there's no gap, come the fall when it comes to those things.
It's interesting because I think the narrative in kind of the larger media landscape is that college football has become a purely transactional sport. It's about how much you can pay a kid, and the haves and the have-nots, kind of like what you were saying earlier about Arizona high school football. And what's interesting to me and what stands out to me about this conversation we're having right now is you've talked about caring for your players as people just as much as their performance on the field. You've talked about developing players, not just acquiring talent. You've talked about, setting standards and expectations, but also getting buy-in and people knowing how much you care about them. So it sounds like, in a lot of ways, what you and Coach Morris are trying to do at Oklahoma State is push back on that narrative that college football is a transactional sport, and it really can be a transformational experience for the players and the coaches kind of working together on that.
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't get it twisted too. Like, there's obviously that part, and I know you know this. Obviously, I mean, you guys are in it, each and every day and see it. Like paying guys and them doing these things and in the acquisition aspects, like it's real and it exists and it is important, right? Obviously, but at the end of the day, so is the other stuff, right? And so to sit here and act like it's not all important, I think it was really interesting. Everybody's got different opinions about this stuff, right? And all these different things, and at the end of the day, like if you want to be a great coach and you want to be a great organization, you want to have a great team, like it's all important. I don't think any one of those things is more important than the other, right? Like you've got to be great schematically. You've got to be great recruiters. You've got to be great, fundraisers and have resources for your kids. You've got to be great at building relationships and loving these kids. Like there's no one thing in my opinion that's what, outweighs the other. Right. And so and it can get exhausting at times really when you think about it. Right. But if you compartmentalize it, and I think if you just start with them as a human being and understand that they want to be treated and loved, and these guys want to be coached hard too, right? Like we don't have a bunch of soft kids in here that can't take coaching. But again, too, like wrapping all that up together, right? Like that's our job. That's why we're here, right? And so to sit here and say that one of those things is more important than the other, I think really just kind of sometimes does a disservice to where it still can be transformational, right? Like, and you kind of hope that it still is,
Yeah.
because for me it was, right, and for you guys it was. There's a reason why you guys do what you do, right, and there's y'all have a story, right, and I think too, getting to know people's stories and their why and where they come from, and as soon as you know that, right, like it all makes sense, right? Like I can go on Dan's Twitter and see his why. I can see his wife and his kids and his past and his history and why he does what he does, right? And so once you kind of get to know them at a little bit of a deeper level, it becomes, not so surface level, right? And you can, begin that transformational part of the process.
No doubt.
Man, that gets
Love
me
it.
fired up, man. Seriously, that is awesome. I'm curious, shifting gears just a little bit. This league is such a competitive conference in the Big 12. When you start to think about the defenses that you're going to play against and the teams that you're going to see each and every week, what are some of the things that are non-negotiable for you as far as ways you need to play versus maybe things that you've done in the past versus things that you're going to need to do in this league? Is there anything that's different for you or that you've thought about, or how do you approach that sort of mindset?
Yeah, I think schematically, we're still getting to know our team, obviously. And so I think that each and every week, just understanding who that opponent is and understanding their strengths. Like I kind of take that pro mindset sometimes of like, hey, who's going to give us issues from a personnel standpoint, right? And making sure that we've got a plan for them, right? It's not just all about schematics or scheme of what we're doing, right? Is making sure we have a plan for them. I think too, we've really taken the next step because we've committed to running the football. And I think that was huge for us last year because we had always been explosive and had these numbers, but like you see our red zone percentage go way up. You see our third down percentage go way up. And I think that's because we committed to running the football, and we're playing with a bunch of tight ends and we're being really creative, with shifting and motioning and utilizing those things. Right. And so we're staying ahead of the chains on first and second down. We're being productive on base downs, getting us into third and shorts. When we get in the red zone, we can run the ball, right? We're not in all these open 10 personnel sets, right? Where you have to get cute and fancy. Like every now and then, it's nice to just turn around and hand the ball off to Caleb Hawkins and say, like, let's just go get sick.
Go get it.
Right? You know what I mean? And so, like, I think we've really grown as an organization, as a staff, to understanding what it takes to win, to play complementary football, right? It's not always all about the offense. Like Skylar Cassidy does a phenomenal job with our defense, okay? Understanding that there's times we can't put them in bad positions, right? The special teams aspect of what goes into a football game. And so to see Coach Morris's growth as a head coach, because he comes from this tree, right? He comes from Mike Leach. I mean, his three position coaches in college are Dana Holgerson, Sonny Dykes, and Lincoln Riley, right?
The OGs.
And so, like, let's not sit here and act like these guys don't all look at each other's numbers and film each and every week, right? Like, there's
Totally.
part of that. But at a certain point,
Totally.
right? Like he's taking this jump as a leader of an organization, as a man, and saying like it's important for us to win football games, and so we're committed to playing great defense. We're committed to running the football. We're committed to a formula that wins football games, and sometimes that formula is not having 650 yards in a game, right? And understanding the ebbs and flows that come up. And so in this conference, like you've got a very diverse range of teams that you're going to play, like. Houston is a very well coached, very sound football team with Willie Fritz. He does a phenomenal job. Like you go up there to Iowa State, like I promise you right now, they're going to be in 12 personnel. They just hired the tight ends coach from the Lions. Like they're going to try to run the ball down your throat.
Coach roll, baby.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you go play Coach Leftwich at Texas Tech, who's going to have more of that vertical choice from GJ and then, the background of Coach Morris and have the air raid principles as well. And they're going to play with tempo and spread it out. And so it's a really unique league. And I think too, like, let's just call it what it is. Like there was this cavity left when Oklahoma and Texas left, right? Who had been the big dogs in this league for a long time. Right. And so there's this race now to see like who can come in here and establish a dominance at the top level of this conference with those two guys being gone. Right. And I do think that's, the sense of urgency that's been created realistically with those two guys leaving. Right. And so you go see Arizona State do it in year 1 and then Texas Tech do it in year 2. But let's see who can sustain it, right? And so that's what we're doing here is we're trying to build a program that can withstand the test of time and different guys coming and going and build something that you look up 8, 9, 10 years later down the road. It's like, yeah, Oklahoma State, is a perennial power in the Big 12.
Yeah. I turned on that North Texas tape and I was like, do we have an air raid guy in 21 personnel or spinner counter down in the red zone? I was like, let's go.
But you know how it is, Dan. So you've called a lot of plays, right? And you get it. So like when things start working and they start clicking, you get confidence as a play caller,
no
right?
Doubt. There's
and
no
so
doubt.
when things start working, right, and then all of a sudden it feels you have the ability to continue to become more creative in what you do, and all of a sudden your confidence level goes up on that certain call you didn't know about because it's maybe it's a little bit funky based on what you haven't done in the past, and then when things aren't going that well, it's back to bread and butter. This is what we do. This is what I know, right? And so. When you're winning games and you're moving the football and you're scoring points, I think that allowed Coach Morris to feel more comfortable with these kind of fresh and new ideas that we were bringing in that kind of layered off of plays, right? And continue to kind of, you do your self-scout and you say, hey, this is a tendency breaker for us, and allows you to be more creative and do those things. And so when that stuff starts working, I think it just compounds. And all of a sudden, Coach Morris is like, he feels really comfortable getting in the flow, calling those things. And the next thing you know, we put all this stuff on tape and DCs are like, I don't know what to do.
What's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
It was a fun tape to watch, man. 25 North Texas. If for the coaches listening, turn on the film, man. It's good stuff. But I know we got to get you out of here. Seth, I know you have a couple questions you usually hit to get us out. I want to make sure we're respectful of your time, but this has been awesome, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. One question before we get to that. You mentioned Mac at Texas Tech. One thing he's been doing a lot lately down there in practice and what they did during spring ball is live calling practice. Is that something that you've subscribed to this spring or kind of how do you approach that philosophy?
We've done that quite a bit. And I think it's great. I think the scripted periods have their purpose, especially early in spring. Right. But I think the reality is too, like, it's great for guys to get in the flow and work situations that naturally and organically come up. Right. And then the second part of it too is sometimes we get a little frustrated because you feel like the defensive coordinators over there pencil whipping you a little bit. You're getting some twist game from the back.
They do that.
They weren't running on inside zone day. And you go, okay, let's get off script. Let's go call it. No, I think all that stuff's great. Right. I think that the competitor in you comes out when those periods too, right? Like, let's not act like it. Like, Skylar's fired up when they sack us or they force a fumble or pick us off the same way that we're fired up when we get off script or get into a call-up period. And right, wrong, or indifferent, we feel like we've got the advantage now. The way you would have
baby, gotta compete.
No, I mean, all that stuff's great, and I think just balancing that stuff out to where it makes sense, so you can have the scripted periods for your guys initially to learn the offense and the ebbs and flows of practice and what you want. And then as spring and fall progresses, getting into a little bit more kind of realistic football situations.
Last segment here, it's just quick hits. You can elaborate as much or as little as you would like to on each one of them. The first one is, what's your favorite football movie?
My favorite football movie is probably, I don't know, might be a little bit controversial. Any Given Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Jamie Foxx crushes
it. Good one.
Al Pacino, Dennis Quaid, man, like, I don't know. It's a cool movie. It's a good one.
Maybe best locker room speech ever.
Yeah, fantastic.
In history, right?
Yeah.
Game of inches.
That's right.
One coach, past or present, you'd love to talk ball with for an hour.
I mean, it's hard not to say Sean McVay right now. I mean, it just and I think the cool thing about him, right, is that you feel like he's a really well-rounded coach, right? Like obviously schematically, you feel like, he puts those guys in great positions and really creative, but he also feels like he's got a great pulse from a leadership standpoint and building a culture. And so it would be hard not to be like, hey, let me pick this guy's brain for an hour and just get as much as I can from it.
It's a good one.
If your offense was a band or an artist, who would it be?
I don't know. I've never even thought of that, honestly. So, I mean, we listen to the same music every day in the staff room. Coach Morris is a West Texas guy.
West
Listen
Texas
to
through and
the
through.
Texas country, right? So my playlist is a little bit more varied, right? And so I've got a little bit more ebbs and flow of what comes up on my Spotify. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. It would have range. Who's somebody that's got a lot of range? Whoever's got a ton of range vocally or musically,
Okay.
there would be a lot of volume, a lot of range in it. We'll go with that.
Love that.
And maybe somebody successful. I don't want it to be a one-hit wonder.
yeah. Not an
Dan's
unknown
kind of a
artist.
music connoisseur. He probably got a good idea.
Well,
for
I'm
that.
sure you're
I'm sure
listening
he
to
is.
it.
This guy's well versed over here.
I'm sure you got some Ryan Bingham going on in the
That's a
in
good
the
one. I
staff
like
room.
that. He
And
does have some range.
he gets that little bit of gravel in the voice. It's good stuff.
There we go.
Grinding some Ryan Bingham on these trips for sure.
We
But,
definitely have.
Last question for you here before we get you out of here. What's one piece of advice you would give to the next generation of coaches?
That just coach ball for the right reasons. You know what I mean? And run your own race. And I'm guilty of that too at times, right? But like it's hard not sometimes to look up and you see these guys. And I think everybody now is saying like the young coaches, it's how fast they're coming up and how hot the young coaches are, right? And I'm 29, but Matt was this age, or Ben Arbuckle was this age, and Kitley and Kenny and these different people, man. You just got to run your own race, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
Run your own race, man, and coach football for the right reasons. And I just know whether it's life, football, my playing days, like when you worried about the stuff that matter and you just put your nose down and went to work, good things happen. And the minute you start thinking about things that are maybe a little bit selfish or things that you really don't have any, value of where you want to get to, good things typically don't happen, right? And so you just never know. I mean, my uncle was the only person in my family that coached, and he hadn't coached since the 90s. And he always talked about Dean Pease, who was a legendary defensive mind.
Yeah.
Didn't coach in the NFL until he was like 56 years old, right? And so if you coach ball because you love ball and because you love the impact you can have on young people and you can help them play at a high level. And so just run your own race and coach ball for the right reasons. It's not about the logo. They pay us a lot of money nowadays. It's not about the money. It's you get to coach ball, man. It's awesome.
Well, Coach, I can't thank you enough. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for Coach Morris and this next era of Oklahoma State football. You're the man, and excited to watch you guys this fall.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time. This was awesome.